Could Sue the T-Rex defeat the most formidable herbivore in all of ARK? This, at a first glance, may seem like a close fight, and one may argue that the real T-Rex has an upper hand in almost every category. But is this truly the case? And how true are these claims? Watch the video and let's find out. Let's begin with everyone's favorite, size. 2. The T-Rex is consistently 4 meters to 4.5 meters tall, with a length of almost 13 meters, and with more up-to-date studies placing her weight at 11.5 to even 11.8 tons. The murder chicken is quite consistently 6 meters tall, about 9 meters long, and while no official weight measurements exist, it's safe to assume that it's probably close to its real-life counterpart of 6, maybe 5 ton range. So Sue has a mass advantage, while the fairy has a height advantage. But sheer size isn't the sole factor that determines the winner in the fight. What about other factors, such as speed? This is one where it's the easiest to go through. Most recent estimates agree that its absolute highest speed is that of 25 miles per hour, and it is unlikely that Sue herself could even achieve such speeds due to her increased mass and less proportionate limbs, and the fact that T-Rex was not built as a pursuit predator. Meanwhile, ARK's Rex is capable of reaching speeds of 23.2 miles per hour. The fairy itself is significantly faster, being able to run at 24 miles per hour. So at best, the fairy is faster, and at worst, they are maybe equal if you believe in the 25 miles per hour thing. And as for agility, it isn't any better. Many people overestimate the Tyrannosaurus' agility, as if being the most agile of the megatheropods automatically means no animal is able to even compare to you. However, even the ARK Therizinosaurus has demonstrated agility that far exceeds that of Sue, able to turn on a dime much faster. The fairy itself is a creature that is constantly hunted by the Rex, and it's only a creature that can actually fight against the Rex, so it is arguably fighting a more agile Rex quite regularly. And it itself is likely not as agile, however, we can safely say it's a tie. But what about actual strength? In terms of raw physicals, the real Rex has some solid showings of power itself, being able to lift over 4 metric tons with its own body for leverage. Quite impressive. As for actual impressive showings, there's its devastating bite that's able to generate over 48,000 newtons. An impressive feat, for sure. But does the ARK Fairy compare? Well, much better than you may initially think. For starters, the fairy is able to cut through a tree with ease. This feat easily calculates into the wall levels of attack potency, which generates over 6,000 kilojoules of energy. This is more energy than the explosion of a hand grenade, and this level of power is consistent given that Helena very bluntly states its power rivaled that of the Tyrannosaurus, further supported by the fact its claws can damage even stone structures. The fairy easily takes this category. Now moving on to the categories such as intelligence, battle intelligence, skill, experience, and endurance. T-Rex intelligence is theorized to be comparable to that of baboons. This is likely the case as even modern archosaurs demonstrate quite impressive feats of intelligence. ARK creatures are intelligent enough to follow rudimentary commands, understand human emotion, and some go as far as setting up ambushes. The fairy, however, will likely not be that intelligent, so objectively speaking, Sue is more intelligent. But is she smarter in combat? While we don't know how exactly the Tyrannosaurs fight, we do know these were very bloody and violent endeavors. Most injuries from Sue herself demonstrate such injuries. However, Fairy has to deal with a much smarter opponent who's better capable of strategizing just as well. So this is more or less a draw. Experience is where the tides completely shift, however. While Sue has 30 plus years of worth of life experience, ARK creatures not only live much longer, but have to face a plethora of creatures they never encountered before and have no familiarity with, and would have to adapt much faster. In other words, the fairy has much more lived experience in comparison, but also has to deal with a much diverse plethora of enemies. So this is not even a debate, the Rex doesn't stand a chance in terms of life experience. But what about endurance? Sue herself, as previously mentioned, possesses many injuries that would have crippled any animal, and many individual T-Rexes have shown extreme levels of endurance. Even ones carrying debilitating injuries have been able to live for a long time. The fairy himself can survive being shot, impaled, bitten, set on fire, blown up, and still keep going. This one isn't even close, the fairy takes it. In conclusion, the ARK Therizinosaurus very easily annihilates Sue, no matter how you slice it. Their fairy is much faster, stronger, and far too durable for Sue to realistically do anything about. Even in the event of an ambush, the verdict remains as it is, since at best the fairy is gonna take the hit and immediately counterattack, dealing a devastating amount of damage in return. At worst, the fairy dodges the attack, leaving Sue vulnerable to his own attacks. Even if she unfortunately survives the assault, trying to run away would prove pointless due to her being slower. And given that the Therizinosaurus is extremely territorial, it is very unlikely that Sue would even have the chance to run away. The fairy would likely overpower her and easily butcher her. She wouldn't even have the chance to turn tail and run, assuming that she would even have a tail left. And within moments, the fight would be over. So, in the end, the Therizinosaurus wins this, with little to no difficulty.